Confidential. Not as changed a bit since you saw him last, I think.
Half an hour ago, 18 years ago. Mickey Jupp, eh? Wow, Mick Jupp. I haven't seen that film for about 15 years, but yeah, quaint. Got some notes. So the first time I became aware of the musicians you're going to see in tonight's presentation was in 1971, when I was trying to persuade Wilko Johnson to join a group I was in. I think Wilko actually did one gig with us at St Clement Church Hall in Lee. And Wilko's excuse for not joining us was, I'm thinking of joining this bunch of kids on the island. And I imagined 12-year-olds. The way he said kids, you know. Anyway, the kids turned out to be Lee Collinson, as he was then, John Sparks, and Chris White, who later all became Lee Brillo, Sparko, and Chris Fennick, manager of Dr. Feelgood. About a year later, Paul Shuttleworth, who became the singer in the Kursaal Flyers, and myself used to promote gigs at the Esplanade on Southend-on-Sea front. And it was Sunday night, and it was 10 pence to get in. It was free at first, but after about 4 weeks we said, look, we've got to make some money. So we had a raffle. We used to raffle an album. It would be something like a Birch album or something like a country rock album we were into at the time. And I got a phone call out of the blue from, I think it was from Wilko. Somebody on Canvey anyway said, you're running this club at the Esplanade, can we come and do a gig? Got this new band. And we said, yeah, sure, because Wilko and I went back some years. I was in a group with him in 1966, actually. And they're called the Flower Pots, used to be at the London Hotel on the High Street. And yeah, Wilko said, we've got this new band, and we're called Dr. Feelgood. So we put the Feelgoods, as they became affectionately known, on at the Esplanade one Sunday night. Now, I have to tell you that they're not quite... Well, you will see a touch of it in the film, but they're not quite the Feelgoods that people got to know. Wilko still had the shoulder-length hair and the Afghan coat, and Lee had a moustache, but they played belting R&B or rhythm and blues, and there wasn't many groups in the UK still doing that by 1972. So, in a way, although they sounded a bit like the Stones, they were quite unique for their time. This was the era of the pub rock scene in London, and I really thought that the Feelgoods were absolutely made for the pub rock scene. And as luck would have it, I had a friend who knew a guy who promoted some of these gigs in town. And I used to pester him and say, you've got to get Dr. Feelgood on, you've got to get Dr. Feelgood on. And the groups in London were groups like Brinsley Schwartz, Ducks Deluxe, Kilburn and the High Roads. And I knew that the Feelgoods would fit right into that. Anyway, after about 4 months, the phone call came. Yeah, we can fit the Feelgoods in at the Tally Ho, which was a pub in Kentish Town. It's just been demolished, actually. Feelgoods went up there, and Wilko still had the long hair, and they hadn't quite honed their look, but they were playing this fantastic, fast, hard and fast rhythm and blues. They didn't actually make much of an impression that night. There were about 30 or 40 people in the room. And, well, they looked like it, to be frank, they looked like any other rock group at the time, but they sounded, and the music was just great. They retreated back to Canvey, and over the course of the next few weeks, they transformed themselves. You know, Wilko got his hair all cut off, Lee shaved the tash off, and, you know, John Martin, the drummer, became the big figure, and Chris became he was their manager, and he was about 18 at the time, but he had this very sort of tough image, and he wouldn't take any rubbish from the promoters in town. And they formed a really tight, you know, hard-rocking little business, really, that would go up to town. It was like a smash and grab rate. They'd go up to town from Canvey, do the gig, get the money, 30 quid, get back to the island, and they would do this 2 or 3 times a week, and of course they became a sensation. And they got lots of reviews in the music press at the time, and they got a record deal. And the rest is geography. Anyway, that's enough of the history lesson. It's a remarkable film, and we've got the director, Julien, to thank for it. You'll see lots of fascinating shots of Canvey Island at the time of the 1953 flood. I'm always amazed that people have got home movie footage. There is some amazing footage in this film of Lee as a youngster, and of the pre-Feelgood jug band playing in the Canvey Carnival in the 60s. So for those of you old enough to have seen Dr. Feelgood when they were at their peak back in the day, you will know what all the fuss is about. For anybody younger, well, I hope this film conveys some of the on-stage excitement and some of the fascinating background information about Dr. Feelgood, as I believe it does. And as someone has said about this film, it's 4 men in cheap suits who crashed out of Canvey Island and sandpapered the face of rock and roll. And that sounds like a pretty good description of what you're about to see. Oil City Confidential. Thank you.
Where in the world is Dr. Feelgood very big? Canvey Island?